Imagine living in a time when staying warm was a matter of life or death. Back in the old days, people had some fascinating ways to survive the freezing temperatures. Wool, for instance, was their best friend. Even if it got wet, woolen clothing helped maintain warmth because of its unique insulating properties. During medieval times, outlaws and common folk alike would bundle up in layers of wool and leather, even donning hoods and mittens to stave off the cold. Surprisingly, these layers were effective at keeping hypothermia at bay, even when the temperatures dipped below what we now consider chilly. Hibernation wasn't just for bears. In places like France and Russia, people would essentially hibernate with their livestock during the harsh winter months. They'd spend long hours packed together in beds, sharing body heat to conserve energy and food. Imagine entire communities slowing down and sleeping away the winter, only waking occasionally to fuel the fire and eat a meager meal. This communal way of living not only kept them warm, but also ensured that resources lasted through the long months. Food was another crucial aspect of winter survival. In Russia, during the Middle Ages, people turned to hearty stews known as pottage. These stews were a melting pot of whatever was available, from vegetables and grains to fruit and cheese. The belief that raw fruit was unhealthy led to everything being cooked, creating meals that were both warm and nutritious. Even the wealthier classes enjoyed stews, albeit with more luxurious ingredients like mutton and red wine. Fireplaces were the heart of the home and the key to warmth. In 18th century America, large fireplaces were a status symbol but also a necessity. These massive hearths could be so big that you could walk right into them, and some were even large enough to roast an entire ox. The sheer size of these fireplaces required enormous logs, sometimes needing horses and chains to bring them inside. In simpler homes, a single large fireplace provided the heat for the entire household, while wealthier families enjoyed fireplaces in every room. These intriguing methods of winter survival show how resourceful and adaptable our ancestors were. From wearing woolen layers and huddling with animals, to crafting stews from whatever was on hand and building enormous fireplaces, each approach was a testament to human ingenuity. Without modern conveniences like central heating, people relied on these time-tested techniques to endure the cold and ensure their communities could thrive until spring's warmth arrived. It's a fascinating glimpse into how necessity drove innovation and cooperation in times long past. Imagine living as an outlaw in Sherwood Forest during medieval times, a life constantly threatened by capture or death, but also by the harsh elements. With no modern conveniences, these outlaws relied entirely on their wits and experience to secure the four essentials for survival: shelter, drink, food, and warmth. Unlike organized military campaigns that prepared for winter by stocking up supplies, outlaws were nomadic, unable to store food or plant crops. As temperatures dropped, they had to adapt quickly to avoid a grim fate of cold, hunger, and eventual death. Clothing played a crucial role in survival. Medieval outlaws wore layers of wool and linen, excellent for warmth. Wool, while providing some warmth even when wet, wasn't waterproof, making leather cloaks a valuable asset against the elements. Staying dry and out of the wind was vital to prevent hypothermia, a stealthy and deadly threat even when temperatures were above freezing. The right clothing could mean the difference between life and death in the forest's unforgiving grip. Shelter was another crucial aspect. While modern campers might use tents, outlaws utilized natural shelters like caves and rock overhangs, or quickly constructed shelters using available materials. Sherwood Forest's large caves, such as Robin Hood's Cave, provided refuge and have been used by humans for thousands of years. These shelters were essential for conserving energy and staying protected from predators and the cold. Fire was indispensable, not only as a source of warmth and light, but also for cooking and boiling water. Medieval people were adept at starting fires using flint and steel, or by rubbing sticks together. A fire was a morale booster and a necessity for outlaws to sustain themselves and maintain a semblance of normalcy in their rugged lifestyle. Mastering firemaking was as essential as any survival skill. food was perhaps the most challenging necessity. While the forest offered nuts, roots, and berries, these were seasonal and insufficient for a balanced diet, particularly in winter. Outlaws often resorted to raiding villages or hunting the king's deer, despite severe penalties for poaching. They needed to balance their interactions with villagers carefully, as betrayal was a constant risk. Despite the harsh conditions and threats, outlaws like Robin Hood were not always villains, but sometimes victims of a corrupt system, using their willpower and ingenuity to carve out a life on the fringes of society.